So while my wife is in the hospital for her surgery and the kids are asleep, I got thoughtful and remembered my dad taking family videos using this one, a Super 8 camera. So I've got here the full stack of reels, of which the first one is currently being digitized. But not only that, because here I've got also something very special that I was never allowed to see as a kid. The Super 8 release of Alien. Maybe it's about time to have a deeper look at this one as well, because in space no one can hear you scream. Obsolete computer technology is my passion. I'm the vintage collector and these are my stories. I never actually intended to digitize these old films myself, but I had the opportunity to get this Super 8 scanner by Reflector for free, so I thought it might make a nice topic for today anyways. Now, this particular scanner debuted in or around 2016, and at first I was pleased to find Reflector still offering software for it. But what a downer when I learned that their currently available CyberView X is only suitable to the most recent Super 8 scanner, while mine was pulled off the market already in 2019. So looking around on archive.org, I could indeed get hold of CyberView 2.0 for Windows and Mac OS. And since I do all my video editing on the Mac, I tried it there first, only to find that CyberView would only hang on startup. I then found a more recent download page offering CyberView 2.2. However, archive.org obviously didn't take a copy of these files. Luckily, I found someone actually had uploaded not only the user's manual, but also CyberView 2.2 to archive.org. But here again, it would fail on me. Although it would actually start up, the app kept complaining that a film was inserted and I would never enter the calibration mode. So in the end, I gave up and hooked it up to my Windows machine. And this then seemed to work and complete just fine for the calibration. The GUI itself doesn't offer too many options. You can enable automatic contrast and exposure settings and control between cold and warm white. Eventually I left exposure and contrast off, as I believe a manual correction afterwards is probably the better approach. There's buttons to move the frames up and down. This is quite important, as the application would only release the capture button to start the capturing process if it thinks the frame on screen is proper. This is quite annoying, as it's somewhat patronizing you for nothing, as it seems. Obviously, people had same issues themselves in the past, offering various approaches on how to unlock the capture button. I did that myself, like changing the frames up and down, adjusting the frame a bit, moving several frames forward and backwards, reinserting the films and starting over. Luckily enough, I only had issues on this very first reel, while most of the time the films would be recognized and ready to capture right away. Still, I came across one reference which mentioned to check that the scanner is actually allowed to use the camera beneath Windows 10 and Windows 11's camera settings, as sometimes this might be blocked as well. As I had used Windows 11, I did check this as well, but the app was already allowed to access the scanner. Now, it's not the fastest scanner, taking roughly 2.5 seconds per frame. So with me running through the first 120 meters of footage, or roughly 30 minutes worth of film, it took almost 30 hours to complete. Now one reason was that the film transport sometimes was stuck because it jammed a little bit. The scanner seems very sensitive and stops immediately in order to not destroy the film. But this also means, if you leave it running unattended, you may notice this only after some random amount of time. But once done with the scanning process, the CyberView app will ask you to assemble the digital movie. It will then create an AVI file in Motion JPEG format, essentially assembling all the many thousand individual frame captures to a single file. Please note, it will also ask you if you want to keep the individual frame captures or not. I chose to keep them, so I essentially have the option to work with the individual files if I need to. And here's the Super 8 camera my father used, which is the Canon 512 XL. I found some online reference about its original specifications and was surprised to find them being offered in a range between $30 to $300 on eBay still today. This camera debuted in March 1975, though I'm certain that my dad bought it only in 1979 or maybe even 1978, so just before I was born. It was initially offered for 75,000 yen, which, adjusted to inflation in 2023, is 130,000 yen, or about 798 Swiss francs, or roughly $872. I still have this sealed cartridge by Eastman Kodak, which is from the mid-80s. It's probably not any good anymore for taping, but still something worth keeping. And modern days cartridges still sell today, because as I understand Super 8 is still in wide use by enthusiasts around the globe. Not bad for a 1965 film format that lost against the VHS video in the 80s. Now, Super 8 was the evolution from regular 8, which came in 1932. Originally, Eastman Kodak partnered with Fuji and Agfa to co-develop the Rapid 8 format, but parted ways in 1964 to bring their contribution as original invention along under the Super 8 brand. Kodak also brought the aforementioned cartridges, which did away with the requirement to manually feed the film. You'd simply insert the cartridge and that's it. And while Agfa simply followed Kodak, Fuji brought their own competing format, which was called Single 8. But apparently it only became popular in Japan, while the rest of the world was dominated by the Super 8 format. The main difference between Super 8 and regular 8 is the perforations, which are smaller, resulting in a bigger exposed area for the picture frame. Also, Super 8 didn't support an audio track from the beginning, though it was added more quickly as for the regular 8 predecessor, which got it only somewhat 30 years after its invention. And while it was not possible to directly record audio to Super 8 in the beginning, separate audio recording was needed, and then later on an audio track would be added to the film in post-processing. Kodak's Ekta Sound cartridge eventually brought direct magnetic sound recording capabilities, but that needed new cameras. There was also an option for optical sound recording, though that was only intended for high-end post-production. So looking at the video projector of my dad, this is a Bolex SP8, of which I also have the manual and even a registration card documenting that he bought it in April 1979.
But you said before he may have bought it in 1978 already.
Yes, the camera, as I was born in February, so he must have had the camera already at that point. And then he bought the projector after I was born, it's that simple. And this one is actually a Swiss-made projector, as Bolex, which still exists today, is situated in Yverdon-les-Bains, the French-speaking part of Switzerland. These as well sell between 50 to 200 euros on eBay still today. Now this projector is interesting as it actually offers audio post-processing functions. And this provides me an aha effect, as my dad always said that one day he's gonna upgrade our silent movies with an audio track. Well, it never came to be, as he fell sick to multiple sclerosis in the early 90s and suffered from it for 20 years until his passing in 2012. So I guess it's on me to care for the family legacy now, huh? But I will definitely not tamper around with these old film reels, but take the scanned footage and do the post-processing in present day's Final Cut. And so it's about time to reveal if that Alien film reel is still any good. Of course, I have seen Alien several times, but never in this particular version, so it's a total premiere for me.
Isn't that supposed to have sound?
Sure, I'll look at the volume in a minute. But I wonder about the red tint. It didn't age too well, I think. Also, I have the feeling it's very dark, much darker than it should be. Aha! Here we have it. This is not an original halogen projection lamp. Obviously, it's an IKEA replacement. After reading around, these are supposed to be 100 watts projection bulbs. Well, I don't have any of these around, but I do have a 50 watts bulb. Maybe that makes it a bit better already for the moment. Sorry for the blur, the camera didn't focus. But it's quite a bit brighter now.
But the sound? What about the sound? It's way too slow.
Yes, it obviously has the wrong speed setting on the projector. Amateur films were typically done in 18 FPS, while any of these commercial films were always 24 frames per second. Luckily, the projector has a switch, so it can easily be adjusted. Yeah, that sounds a lot better already. The projector even has an external plug, so I can feed the audio signal into the computer for recording. I know it looks very unprofessional, but for a quick test this was enough to see if the audio capturing works.
Wait a second, what about the scanning machine?
Yeah, the scanner does only care for the image frames, but it can't capture the audio. So if you want that, you certainly have to go for a bigger and more professional capturing equipment. But during my test, I realized that the projector would not run nicely on 24 frames, leaving me with a stuttering and eventually coming to a total stop. Now, I'm not sure why that is, but I'm opening up briefly, maybe I can spot it. What I do notice already is the power level indicator. Somehow, I was under the impression that this red indicator was kind of a dynamic thing, adjusting automatically to the voltage level. But look how simple it's made. It's actually just a red plug that goes into the correct position, and so you see from the outside window the correct voltage level. Well, I realize it's set to 220 volts, although we're having 230 volts in Europe since 1987 already. Hence I'm gonna change it. Still, I wonder about the motor, which doesn't seem to work correctly. But apparently it does work right, although when it touches these rubber plates, it seems to slip through in the 24 FPS position, while it seems to be totally okay when in the 18 FPS position. I guess I have to replace these rubber wheels to improve traction. To be honest, I believe this never worked correctly on this projector. As I do have the sales receipt for this projector, it mentions it being a second-hand apparatus, so it was probably heavily used by the pre-owner. It was surely not by us, because I don't remember my father watching too many films on this thing, even though I seem to remember we also had some Bud Spencer and Terence Hill reels somewhere around. Anyways, I think in order to proceed here, I first need to get some proper spare parts. But I can of course start digitizing that Alien movie now, as I want to preserve it for my own film collection. Next time on The Vintage Collector. Alright, these films were in bad shape, and digitizing them was only the first step. Now comes the heavy lifting, which is to apply color correction, stabilization, removal of scratches, and, anyways, how to add color back in when there is no color left.